I'm Stephanie Mann, and I'm the Executive Director of Safe Kids Now. And I am pleased to introduce to you today Jordan Ryak, who is with us. And he is part of our series called The Power of One. And he has written a book called Plain Talk About Spanking. And he is a very avid advocate for kids. And tell me a little bit about how you got involved in this and why you think spanking should not be in anybody's itinerary here when you're raising children.
Well, initially, my involvement in the issue specifically of corporal punishment concerned corporal punishment at school. And I grew up in New Jersey, and New Jersey was the first state in the United States that banned corporal punishment in all education. And I assumed that the whole civilized world behaved that way. I never saw it, never heard of it. And then, when I was raising my family, when my children were young, we moved to Sydney, Australia, and that was a wake-up call. I was introduced to corporal punishment because I put my children into schools that used it.
Wow.
And that was a shock. And I began the work immediately then to oppose it, to campaign against it, and that was the beginning.
Well, now, I know you probably run up against a lot of people that say, spanking's not so bad. You know, you got to hit kids once in a while. What would you say to that?
Well, it does for a child's development exactly what wife beating does for marriage. And for the husband who says, look, I don't hit my wife all the time and I never hit her, I just chastise her. And then what's wrong with that? And I don't leave any bruises, I don't, you know, it's all done in love.
So tell me why you wrote this book. It's called Plain Talk About Spanking. How did you happen to write this?
Well, I wanted something that someone could read in a few minutes, non-technical. Anyone with an 8th grade education can read it in about 20 minutes. I wanted everything in the booklet to be immune from any challenge. When you read it, it all makes total sense. And then when you look at anyone who wants to pursue the issue in more depth, and they look at the literature, they find that every claim that I've made has been made by many going back. The experts going back into history have said exactly the same things. There's nothing original in this book. You know, we've all taken driver's education. I think that anyone I ask about it, I say, before you got your driver's license, did you have some formal lessons? Yes, I had driver's ed. My kids had driver's ed. Every high school should have, as part of its standard curriculum, parenting. Not in depth, but the simple basics. And what could be more basic is that when you're parenting the child that you love, that when you're setting the standard for that child's life, there is no hitting, no spanking, switching, beating, whatever you want to call it, whatever euphemism. There's only gentle treatment. Exactly the kind of treatment that you want from others. That's what you have to give your child.
Well, that would help change society, wouldn't it?
Every high school has to have a parenting course. And so many of these kids are parents before they're out of high school. So many. We have teenagers who are starting families. What do they know about babies' needs and how to treat a baby? Only what they learned from their own parents. If they were lucky and had good examples, good luck. A lot of them have the worst examples, and they perpetuate that with the next generation.
Well,
and when people say, look, we don't want the government telling us how to raise children, well, look, the government tells you how to drive a car. And I don't want the government to sit next to me and tell me what I'm doing wrong with my family. But the government sits next to you, essentially, when you're driving a car and says, you're speeding. You're breaking the law. The speed limit is what it is, and you are exceeding it.
Well, you know, the government also intervenes now with child protective services if you abuse your children after it's happened.
Yeah, after it's
So
happened.
we're talking about prevention, which is critical for children. We want to help prevent these atrocities from happening
Right.
before they begin, and break the cycle.
Right.
And break the
And
cycle.
when you look at the standards that Child Protective Services has to use as to guide them, it is so convoluted because no one has been able to, or not yet, not in the United States, has been able to say assault and battery is wrong whether you do it to your spouse, your neighbor, or your child. As soon as it involves a child, there's a whole special language, and it becomes vague and confusing. And Child Protective Services essentially is limited. They can intervene when the child is dead. I call it the blood on the floor standard of child abuse. When the child's body is starting to get cooled, you know the law has been broken. That's much too late.
Much too late. Much too late. Well, now you have this wonderful little book called The Plain Talk About Spanking. How does somebody get a hold of it?
Well, they can come to the website nospank.net, and they'll see it right on the main page of the website. There are links where they can read the booklet online. They can print it online, and an address where they can email me or write to me and say, please send a copy. They're free. I would be delighted. I send them out every day. People request them and they get them. And many people, of course, can print them themselves right from the website.